why is it considered racist to contest the drug cartels? Or why am I supposed to be super fond of how they do business? Look, they might have, in my opinion, not just my opinion, they actually, America has put, and maybe the world, has put some of the best medicine into the drug cartels' hands. They've made some of God's most natural plants illegal and put in drug cartels' hands. You can't blame the cartels for all that. That's, the government's involved in it, I guess, because they've done that, right? They're our best psychiatrists. But drug cartels, you could say, have taken all my girlfriends. Not all of them. But it's taken, I don't have any, but they have taken women, ruined women in a sense. I guess bullied them and made slaves out of them. I guess I don't really know. You can't really. But it's psychological warfare. So it's a lot that happens. But there's a lot of nice women that have fallen into that system. And so men too, a lot of men. And so what's likable about that? Maybe my soulmate was in there. The one that was supposed to be my soulmate, right? I don't know. But you have that, and they steal too much. They kill. So here's a big issue. Why don't they, if we don't fix the laws, we need to start addressing the cartels. But everybody acts like a coward, and they always talk about addicts. They pick on addicts all day. Churches, religions, everybody. All addicts as this. We got to watch out for addicts. But when have you ever heard them speak about the drug cartel being more responsible? They're the ones stealing from addicts, and addicts steal from other addicts. And the addicts who steal from other addicts, look, there's not many addicts. They can't be, unless they keep stealing. Because the first day they go out to use something, they get robbed by the stealing addicts that are working with the cartels. So they've agreed to become part of the thief network. And they're able to keep using regular, and those are your real addicts. And most addicts get stereotyped as one of those. And maybe they do draft a lot of people, but who they steal from mostly is other addicts. Or other consumers, actually. But the people they steal from that don't buy into stealing, they use them one day, they get robbed, and they can't get addicted because they got robbed. They have no way to get any more medicine. So they're stuck waiting a month. They recover. They're depressed from theft. They need theft rehab, which takes a lot longer than drug rehab, a lot longer than a hangover rehab, right? So why is it considered racist to, in a sense, to contest cartels coming across the border and all? So when I say cartels, we always ignore that there's technically an American drug cartel, there's a Mexican drug cartel. There's probably a black cartel, a white cartel, a Hispanic cartel, an Indian cartel, now some Asian cartels. Here, there's Western Indians cartels. They're mixed maybe with Hispanic some. And I don't know how that all works out, but the fact is in a sense, they work together, right? Even racist blacks and racist Hispanics who don't like each other, sometimes they do some kind of deals with, I'm sure there's people that do deals across, even though they don't really like each other. The ones that are racist, that is. So, truly racist. And, or just prejudice, maybe not racist. So we always use the word racist. But there's bigots, there's bigots, prejudice, and racism. And you could have three definitions for each one. I mean, I could say bigot and prejudice is kind of similar, but prejudice might be you're tired of a culture that steals a lot. And now you should be concerned about that. You should be apprehensive with them. But when you just start hating and then you bracket everybody with that, and it's hard if most of a culture or a large percentage of the population in a culture is into stealing, how do you not stereotype? That's hard not to stereotype. You actually need to stereotype a little bit just to be cautious and say, take caution with this if they come from that culture. You have to. I mean, you should address the culture though. Quit blaming people who take caution, but address the culture that is qualifying stealing from everybody. And then they're gonna say, well, how come you won't hang out with us? How come you act like we might steal something? Come on. And you know that half the people think stealing is cool. They don't and they brag about it Come on, when they're bragging about looting and all that kind of stuff. And so we got a lot of those cultures growing now. You got black and white cultures doing that. The Antifa, you got certain like Democrat black cultures that do it, and they do the looting, and they don't even speak against it. You know, a few people do. Some of the Republicans do, black Republicans, white Republicans, but the Democrats promote it. They act like it's okay. But the drug cartel comes. The Democrats actually support it. It's a government-run thing. They're our best psychiatrists. They are our biggest psychiatrists. They're not a good psychiatrist, really. But in a sense, they have an understanding of medicine because the government made God's natural plants illegal. So there's the problem, though. They need to legalize the natural plants and put it into scientists' hands instead of street thieves' hands. It's not that it was started out in those hands, I guess, but it's turned into a situation where people greedy for money are attracted to it, and they support stealing because they get more money from it. They get free clothes, free computers, free phones, free everything that people steal for them. And so that's the cartel. They're connected to the cartel. That's part of the cartel. And people qualify it because they always pick on addicts, but they never call out the cartel. And that's what the cartel does. The hustlers, they allow it. They support it. And I'm not sure if the top cartel is into that. They may not like thieves. They may put thieves to death, some of them. But as it trickles down, it gets run by thieves, and they mix it with poisons and all this kind of stuff. Certain ones do, not all of them. Certain ones do. Sometimes people who deal don't know what they're getting. They don't know if it has poison in it. And that's an issue. So it's better off being legal. And it's in people's faces, in the streets. If it's legal venues, then then it makes sense to crack down on addicts. And in a good way, though. They should be expected to be responsible and use responsibly. I say addicts, but consumers. Everybody, like I say, I think we've been tricked into thinking addiction's way worse than it is because people get poisoned, people get bad medicine, they're paranoid and have to sneak to use. They can't go for help when they need it because our system robs them when they get help. They get labeled. They lose their job when they get help. They're called an addict basically in a negative way. And the truth is they should either just be taught to change medicines, cut back on medicine, or stay in rehab. But the rehab shouldn't steal their job. It should be work around their jobs in a regular, in a legalized system. But but my part of this is I just did one video, so I'm a little forget what I've talked about. The video and the thing cut out on me. I had done a whole 13 minutes, and I didn't realize my storage was full, and it cut off. So I'm saying some of these things quicker than I did the first time, maybe leaving some points out. But if we never get it legalized proper, we need to start addressing the cartel and telling them, look, I know the world's not honest about medicine. Y'all have good medicine. We have to ask them to regulate it, I guess. Since the government won't. They've outlawed regulating good medicine, and they haven't given scientists a license to deal it. And you might have some scientists that disagree, and they say, this is a terrible medicine, and it can't be legal. It's too strong. It makes people makes their sex drive too strong. It makes their tempers flare. Well, that's your responsibility as a consumer to know what a medicine does for you, but it doesn't do the same thing to everybody. People react to the things differently. And it would be a much safer form than it is in the streets. And you'd know how many milligrams you have. You'd have the plant legalized in various ways, and which is not as bad as the concentrated forms. Perhaps you put the concentrated form in doctor's hands and you put softer forms into licensed dealers' hands, whether it be through a liquor store or something else like that. But it's not good to mix that with liquor. So it's hard to say how to do it. But it's way better than what's going on now. They're killing people all the time. And if you have a legal venue and you overdose, that's your fault. It is. And if the doctor prescribes you a medicine and you overdose, you misused it, that's your fault. We got to quit suing doctors for that kind of stuff. Do legal venues, have it out of the streets, out of people's faces, and have it in adult venues only. And then I mean, look, alcohol is legal. I'm not going to the liquor store. You know, a lot of people aren't going to the liquor store. Most people aren't going to the liquor store. I'd say most people are not. And then you have some that might drink a little wine, and then it's not a sin. Now, the problem is the church has taught that it's a sin. It's not a sin. It's very warned. It's very tricky. The Bible tells us not to trust ourselves and not to think we can just get a buzz. But it allows for medicinal use. It does. But at the same time, it doesn't want you overdoing it. So they've completely misinterpreted it and listened to really the KKK, the one that it's probably been a tricky subject throughout history. But the KKK, you don't hear about these stories much in the Bible about drunkenness and stuff, but except with Noah. But I'm sure there was a problem back then. I don't know how they dealt with it. Probably the same, but not today. But the KKK, particularly in the Democrat side years ago, they're the ones that promoted prohibition and demonized medicine and had it illegal. And then I think they dumped it into the real plants and stuff into poor neighborhoods. And so back then, because there were more blacks that were in slavery than there were whites in slavery, so some of them had a hard time transitioning to regular work or finding jobs and stuff. So you had a few more. We had the Depression as well. So you probably had a few more on the East Coast anyway. You had more poor black neighborhoods. In the West Coast, you still had poor white neighborhoods. So you have. So that's where they dumped the drugs, or they helped. That's just where it went, to the poor neighborhoods for the most part. So I don't know if it was flowing in way back then over the border, how that worked back then. I don't know. But here's the thing: it's not racist to be cautious about drugs coming across our border. Fentanyl is flowing across, it's killing people like crazy. Fentanyl is not a natural drug. It's not from a natural plant medicine, from what I understand. It's a synthetic form of heroin that was first formulated in China, that as far as I know. And even synthetic forms of marijuana that aren't real, they can kill, they put people in shock. I've seen people fall to the ground on their first puff and go into have seizures and stuff when they were, that wasn't real marijuana, that was synthetic marijuana. Look, so it didn't kill them, they went and had seizures. I'm sure some people have died from, if you see how their breathing is obstructed, they could have an asthma attack, even if you don't have asthma, the way they had seizures and stuff. So, but with fentanyl, it can kill people automatically. And that's a trick. I don't know if it's a money trick or a purposeful, what do you call it, extermination? I forgot the word. When they're trying to kill people. Genocide. It's a purposeful genocide, perhaps. But it's also, for a lot of people, use it to save money, to black people out and rob them. So I've heard that it blacks people out. That when people black out, that's part of, they may still know what they're doing, but they don't remember anything. They don't see anything. They don't realize what they're doing. And then they get robbed, or somebody tells them they're in debt or whatever. I don't know how common that is, but they do get robbed. And then, so it's a genocide, though. So here's the point I forgot to leave off earlier, put in earlier, is like I've heard, like in Philadelphia, they've killed off most of the addicts, most of the homeless. So when you think about it, they're cheating on the drug. That's why they're bringing all these immigrants in. I hope there's some good ones. I'm happy for the people who are coming for a better place. But the Democrats have purposely sent certain types of people here. And it's not because it's to vote Democrat. So they've handpicked a lot of people that they have coming here. Apparently, I don't know if they could handpick them all, but they're pretty organized in how they block me from being heard, how they block people from being able to talk politics, how they block you from, they call things racist that aren't racist, and they call stuff hate speech that's not hate speech. I'm a teacher. I'm teaching. I'm not the best teacher in the world. I bring up some of the most high priority, the most valuable subjects. I'm good at picking valuable subjects. I think I am good at that. I'm still trying to get better at, remembering good points and all that. And I'm just, maybe I can't do it all at once, no matter how I do it, no matter how I try to summarize it. I'm just going to have to keep having discussions, and people have to learn a point at a time. And I can only put out a few points at a time that hit right to the root of things. That's what I try to do, and but it ends up having a lot of supportive points and lawyering. I would call it. You have to lawyer things to support your case because people don't believe that God created medicine. I mean, I'm proving it in a way, or that it's good to have it in scientists' hands who are licensed instead of killers' hands and thieves' hands. That should be so obvious, and I think that's really the problem. But we've been believed to think that if we talk about this, we're promoting use. I'm not promoting use. I'm promoting less use. I'm promoting more safe use. I'm actually promoting, which they wouldn't like, is that people start enjoying relationships better instead of drugs and money. But so that if you go to the cartel areas, it's all about the money. We don't want to have no relationships. We don't want to date. We don't want nothing like that. We just want our money and our drugs, right? So for some of the people that are consuming it, and so even dealers just want the drugs because it gets them money. It gets them maids. They pay maids with drugs. They do all that. I mean, it's easy. So it's cheaper than paying them money. It saves them money. So they do that kind of stuff. Not just maids, male maids, women maids. They do all that kind of stuff. Some of them do, right? But they pay people to steal. They give them drugs for stealing clothes, phones, computers, everything else. That's the cartels doing that. That's the dealers doing that. That's more than the users. So the users they steal from, so you got people that do use every day, the addicts, but they're stealing from other addicts everything they have in the first one day. They'll steal it. And so those people don't become addicts. And I don't know if most of them even wanted to become addicts. They probably were the ones that don't continue stealing for stuff. They were probably out there when they needed a psychiatrist and needed some medicine. And some people would argue nobody ever needs medicine. Forget that. These people, there are people out there that would go and just want to do it for once in a blue moon. And because they're depressed, they don't have anybody to talk to. They can't afford a psychiatrist or get connected to a psychiatrist and wait 2 months for the appointment, stuff like that. And they have the medicines in the streets do come from natural sources. But they're mixed. They don't know what they're getting. They're scared they're going to get shot buying stuff. Sometimes they're mugged in the head by other addicts who are regular addicts that steal. And so we believe that everybody does what they do, but what they do to people puts people in positions where they have to be desperate enough to steal because they need theft rehab, and we don't have theft rehab. So that's something new I've realized recently. We need theft rehab. The real issue is theft rehab. Theft rehab is so much harder to recover from than a hangover. That's the reality. If you get past the hangover, you've broken the addiction phase. So these are things, I'm still realizing, but we've been tricked. Once an addict, always an addict is a trick. It's not. If you've ever eaten chocolate or drunk coffee, you don't want to quit. But you do if you're a health nut. So, but you don't. But there's going to be. You may put it down. Some people put it down and they get in shape and work on their health. But at some point, they think, I need some chocolate. I want to try some chocolate. And I don't need to call them an addict for deciding to relapse and do some chocolate. I don't, especially if they don't do it regular. I don't need to pick on them, calling them an addict and put them out of work and put them out of housing, do all that kind of stuff. And that's what we've done. I mean, come on now. But it's not addiction. It's something you've had. You kind of liked it. It worked for you. It kind of gave you a break and you were able to recover on the weekend and get back to being a robot Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in a sense. And God created that system that we're almost like robots in a way, Monday through Friday, right? So but every now and then people they get tired of the same old motions, and sometimes coffee helps them break the monotony. And so why should we take everything away from them for that? Why should we allow coffee dealers to steal from them? We shouldn't. Why should we allow coffee dealers to poison their coffee? We shouldn't. We don't. So why do we do it with other medicines? I mean, they've played a big trick on us a long time ago. And it was, I think, from what I understand, the KKK did that back in between 1910 and 1920. first. It was one of the first where they actually had coca leaf in the Coca-Cola back then. So it wasn't as bad as, apparently it couldn't have been too bad. The Sigmund Freud, he got addicted to cocaine. He was a scientist who studied it and said it helped him be romantic with his wife, he says, but it got addicted, it got too strong, and he said it's a bad drug. And everybody they pretended that was the end all and you can't have it. But the truth is, about any drug, you can make a very soft form or a too strong a form. So you need the strong form for surgery sometimes. You need recovery, or for somebody, I don't know if you need a strong form for something like the coca leaf, but except for pain, for surgery maybe, or for they may mix it, and usually the rule is with the Bible you don't mix too many things. But I don't know if it were put them to sleep. But the real form, I don't know everything about it, but I know the real form can give people heart attacks. But to go into it, the point is you can make safer forms. There's even supposedly, I'm not sure, 2 forms of drugs in the coca leaf, and one is a downer to counteract the upper side effect. And so you got that in chocolate. You got theobromine to counteract the caffeine. Theobromine is a downer, but it's not a very healthy downer. It can kill a dog. And if you do too much of it, you'll feel it too. You'll feel like you're anemic. And if you do it every day, I've done it. I've done the experiment. And I enjoyed it. It was tasty. I did it a whole month, and then my memory's not very good. It was like really slow memory and everything because the theobromine built up in me. So, but at the time I rationalized it to prevent blood clots, because chocolate can be pretty good at preventing blood clots, which I had a leg injury. So I rationalized it. But I had a foot injury, leg injury, and I was wearing slings on my calf muscle. And so I rationalized doing the chocolate because I needed a little caffeine too. I was losing a lot of sleep. But I found I saw the negative side effects over time. So I want to get back to my point and finish. It's pretty soon. I know I've left out some points. This is my second time to do the video. And, sorry. But you have, we should start contesting. When I say contesting, teaching, not contesting so much, but rebuking violence. Regardless, if the government leaves drugs in the hands of cartel, you got to. We as a society got to start teaching them to regulate themselves, right? Does that make sense? You know how bad it is out there. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's a thief. I mean, thieves everywhere. People killing everybody all the time, beating people up. You know, I guess there's more killings than there are beatings, maybe. But because people die from the beatings. Sometimes people are wounded. So here's a point, though. Here's a point with the cartel. Why can't they do a better job of collecting debts? Why do they have to kill somebody over a debt? Why don't they? How come people can't know that it's safe to go pay a debt if somebody's saying they owe them? They should make sure that they feel safe coming to pay the debt and that they're going to leave, to be able to pay it and leave without being killed. Many more times would they get their pay if they did it that way? So that's you could say, well, you can't talk about that stuff. That's an illegal transaction. But we're talking about life and death here, and which is killing somebody is an illegal transaction. So, and you're not regulating stuff. And you're just letting the system go as it is. You're not legalizing proper medicine properly. You don't even know how. I've studied it, and I know a lot of ways how. And some of them would be, well, should we do it this way or should we do it that way? I know you should legalize it in scientists' hands. I'll put it like that. And so which ones do you put, what do you put in the doctor's hands and what do you not put in the doctor's hands? Because doctors make it worse a lot of times. You put it in doctor's hands, and they won't prescribe anything. And then you still got the cartel. But probably the way you do that is you put the strongest concentrated forms in doctors' hands for surgeries and other extreme pain. And then you have to quit suing doctors. I mean, we know what the stuff is. If somebody dies from stuff and they shouldn't have, you go to the scientists, not the doctors. Go to the producers. But you don't even need to do that much, except to make sure it was done right. As long as they put the 10 milligrams, you're supposed to know. If it says 10 milligrams and it's all accurate, you don't take more than one, whatever it says to take. You don't take it too much more than that. Some people are going to test it a little more. Or you don't take over the maximum dose, right? You do that. If you do, that's your fault, right? So but that's in doctors' hands, that stuff. But then the plant form, the natural plant form, maybe could be legalized in stores. And then that is difficult to figure out. How do you contain that? But do you let people grow it at home? So there's difficult parts that would come up, but it's still better than the system we have. So you still teach abstinence. You still, as the best way. It's just not true though to from a religious standpoint to say you shouldn't. So the truth is, some people say, well, but you can control yours and you don't crave it and all that. I'd say keep it out of your face mostly. I don't want. Usually I keep coffee and chocolate away from me if I'm trying to stay off it. I don't want it in my presence. And but every now and then I'll still rationalize, well, it's been a while, I can do it. And then it relieves me in some ways, and then I kind of regret it. It bloats you a little bit, right? It bloats you, it dehydrates you. But, so that's the same thing. You got side effects with everything. To one degree or another. You got side effects with all those kind of things. And so it is a touchy subject. But it's not going to be any worse than it is now. And so people will, why do I not have an issue with it? Maybe because I'm a Christian. I've had problems, but I'm saying, why do I just never want to be an addict? Why can't, if I've ever gone to use medicine, why don't I just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it? Because I know about health. I know I want to take care of my body the way the Bible says to. But I'm the person who's not against medicine. But my goal would be to stay completely clean, even off of caffeine. I hope I can achieve that goal at some point. But if I don't, like this week, I did some chocolate. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to move on, and I'm already gotten off the chocolate, except for I got some granola bars with a little chocolate. But that's never affected me like just pure straight chocolate does, and because I can just keep eating it too. So there would be people who say we're not supposed to love these things for pleasure and heighten. Just stay drunk in a sense with pleasurable feelings. And you can do that with medicines and become addicted in a sense. So if you have legal venues, there's people who don't believe in God, don't care much about their body, but they care about feeling good all the time in a sensual way or whatever it does. Some things make you sensually feel well. And so it's true, maybe they would choose to do that. So what do I say about that? Is that their choice, as long as they're not putting anybody in danger? So we need to elevate the 10 Commandments. When do people know they should not use a product like that? It's when they break if it causes them to break one of the 10 Commandments, which includes adultery, then you need to switch medicine, quit the medicine, or cut back on the medicine, and not do it the way you're doing it. But that's how you know when you're overdoing it, right? If you don't live in a family setting and you live by yourself, but you know that then, right? If you live in a family setting and you're raising kids and all that, you need to be you should cut back on coffee and everything, because coffee does affect your temperament. So, but people should know that. We should be taught that. But guess what? They should make softer, if people buy beer and stuff, they should make more safer ones, more lower potency ones. And all that. So it is a touchy subject. That is a hard call, what I just got on. So yeah, it's hard. And so you think, but you teach abstinence the same. You have mandatory rehabs. You have true rehabs. You have rehabs that don't allow coffee or smoking cigarettes for people who truly want to break addiction and want to learn and you do nutrition. You do exercise and nutrition and teach people what it really feels like to feel good. And then you have alternative rehabs for people who are just trying to get off a specific drug, but they can still do coffee and smoking, cigarettes if they want. So you have rehabs like that, but you're being more honest. You're saying we're not completely dealing with addiction, but we're dealing with getting off this medicine that's caused us behavioral problems. So the Ten Commandments, if you're going to steal, if you're going to hurt somebody, and it's a medicine that's causing you to do that, then you know you're not supposed to do it. Or at least cut back if that's the problem. And if you can't, you go to rehab. But the rehab shouldn't make you lose your job in a proper society. But let's just say that none of this ever happens. We need to start teaching the Ten Commandments to the cartels and everybody. And just, include them as human beings. Quit looking at stereotyping and hating everybody. The people in the cartels are human beings just like we are. We're all, just like me, just like you, whoever's listened to this, is a human being, right? And people who can't listen, it can be interpreted for them, they're still human beings. So we have a conscience. You know what I'm saying is right, except for any errors I've made. But you know what I'm saying about we shouldn't kill people. You know that's right. We know we shouldn't assault people. We know we shouldn't, detainment, it's okay. If you have to detain people because they're dangerous to other people, that's your thing. But generally, you don't murder, you don't steal from people. And because they stole from you, you don't steal back. They owe you. If they stole from you, they owe you. They should go to jail if they're caught, or some system where they're forced to pay it back before they're released. They need to pay it back. And our system, when they're caught, they need to pay it back. That exonerates them, by the way. And that also might get them out of jail quicker. So I started this, I'm saying, okay, the cartels takes all your girlfriends. Takes a lot of, men like women, right? Generally still. They still do. And, but a lot of nice women, some of your nicest women a lot of times, are somehow get trapped in the cartel system. And they're used for quick money. I mean, they get money easier than men do. And I'm not talking about by prostituting. I'm talking about if a woman needs money, there's a lot of people that'll help a woman, including shelters that help women and stuff like that. And they're slower to help men, right? It's just the way it is. Well, go get it yourself, man. If a woman asks for money, somebody's more prone to help a woman. And that's not always the case, but especially if she's a rude woman, right? Real rude and demanding and yelling and being violent. No, but if it's just somebody who looks like they're having a hard time, and it's a woman particularly, somebody, they want to feed them and give them food. And that's not just men doing it for the women. Other women are more prone to help a woman in that situation than they are to help a man. So that's just nature, right? Because women are, I'm not going to say women are friendlier than men, but sometimes they are. I guess they have more of a motherly nature about them to look at somebody and say, what if that was my child or something? They tend to do that more often than men, I think. But a lot of Christian men are capable of being just as considerate as women sometimes naturally are. And nowadays, there's a lot of women that want to be gangster, mean, tough, and all that kind of stuff, and they're not. They refuse to be nice. Some of them are into that, but usually it's more women that are friendly like that, in my experience. So, anyhow, but there is that factor involved in all this stuff, because it's psychological warfare, the way we've used medicine and the way we punish people for it, and we put them out of housing and stuff, and that's wrong. And then we should, instead of putting people out of housing, you should send them to a rehab. And if they don't cooperate with that, then you can put them out of housing, I guess. But really, they should go to rehabs. But they also need, they mostly need theft rehabs, and they also need bully rehabs. You got to, if there's people stalking them down for that stuff, threatening their lives, there's got to be something done to figure out how to put that to a stop. But the first way to do it, the best way to do it, is to start teaching against it. And so I'm a teacher. I'm not the best teacher. I'm more than just a teacher. I teach politics. I'm not an evangelist, and so to speak, officially, but I have the gift of evangelism. I like to evangelize, telling the truth about life and death, and life after death, and the only evidence we have, which is Christ. And so And really my belief in Christ and reading the red letters is how I got involved in, everybody talks about drug culture and stuff. And so I'm compassionate for drug culture. I have compassion for them. And I've found myself falling victim to the same system, because I used to be curious about why this society is segregated and why the church doesn't care, it seems, much about. A lot of the churches didn't care about people caught up in that because they label it under drugs. And they hate drugs. And they hate alcohol. And they've been trained to do that for the last 100 years. And it's not biblical. It's, oh, you're supposed to hate sin. And they call drunkenness sin, like one of the only sins. And God allows drunkenness when you're having surgery, for instance. So it's not a sin unless you're sinning with it. So drunkenness, obviously, it's a danger and all that. And so it's a natural danger. It's obviously not good. You don't want to get in the car. We got to do things to keep measures and keep people from getting in the car. But you educate people about the truth of it. I think you have less of that rather than more of it. Because I've even promoted that maybe they shouldn't have a bar, a nightclub, unless they have shuttle service for people who get drunk, right? So I'm not trying to do something worse here. I'm trying to do something better. And I have to cut it off because I'm at 36 minutes, and I just want to make sure I didn't forget any specific points I started with in the first video that didn't turn out to work. But because I had some ideas there that I just new epiphanies. I like to share epiphanies, and then I recycle some of the old information, because you have to keep putting it out there because people aren't hearing it anywhere. People think we're not allowed to talk politics. And I said this in my first video, is that, look, we can't talk about fuel prices being too high. I might have said it earlier in this video. We're not allowed to talk about fuel prices not being fair. Come on. We've taken our fuel supply away, and it's not the gas station's fault. They have to pay for the supply, and they've jacked the price up. Trump got the fuel prices down further than anything I've seen since the 1980s and 1990s. And because he opened a fuel supply here, and when Biden and the Democrats got in office, they closed it. So it's not racist to contest fentanyl and everything crossing the border. I support and applaud people coming across the border who are coming for a better life, trying to find a better life. And I hope we should be allowed to talk and continue contesting whether whether our system is supporting the ability to have a better life. And or we're not helping anybody that's coming here either by not doing that. So, but the Democrats are bringing people to vote. They're putting people in New York. They're sending people out of New York to states like Florida and places like that count more in the election. They've sent Democrat voters down, but you still got more Republicans moving there too for tax purposes and to escape New York and stuff. But escape the crowd, the costs, and everything else in California too. So there's still a chance that Republicans can win, even though the Democrats are basically cheating. They keep lying and saying the Republicans cheated. They've been cheating this whole time. Their goal in letting people over the border is to cheat. They're trying to bring in Democrat voters that when you go to sanctuary cities, I'm pretty sure you can get an ID and vote. And they've brought people that support Biden. They're being told Biden lets you come here and they want you to vote Democrat. But when they get here and they realize they do see when they come here, a lot of them, that they've been lied to about who's racist. And so, hopefully people learn about God and Christ and can have a change of heart if they came here for the wrong reason. But I'm very happy for people who came here for good reasons. And anyhow, but I'll end it with that. And unfortunately, I got cut off in the first video, and I don't remember if I talked on that much in the first or second video. But adios. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. 1 John 4:8. Merry Christmas 2023. Happy New Year coming 2024.